Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Dialogue Mash. I'm your main host, Jackson, as always, and with me, as usual, is my co-hosts, John and Ian. Hey, happy Mother Day. Happy Mother Days to everyone. And how was your guys' Mother Days for once in a while? What
Uh,
you guys
mine
do?
was mine was great. We spent time with my parents. Went down, hung out. Went to a little like art market thing. Went out to brunch. Kind of the standard stuff, right? The standard stuff. It was great. It was a great time. Fantastic time. John, what about you?
I too spent time with my family. Yeah, it was good. It was we went golfing. My mom and my stepfather both golf. I golf, so it's like a good way that we spend a good 4 hours together. Which is it's always fun to just spend time with them. So we did that, and then took my mom out and my stepfather out to lunch. We went to like a local kind of cafe. No, it's not. It wasn't fancy, but it was like higher end. It's like in the snobby part of like Scottsdale, whatever. Like
I don't know.
bougie, I guess. And I ate some food and stuff, and had a good time, and talked to them and stuff. And so
That's good.
it's super cool. That was one of the main benefits of like deciding to move down here to the Phoenix area was getting closer to my family. Especially as they get older now. I think Brad's almost 70, and my mom is getting up there too. So, super grateful that I get to be around them. Just at the drop of a hat. They're an hour and a half away, so they're close enough to where I can get over there, but they're also far enough to where like they
They're
can't
not
just
knocking
do the
on your door every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
It's like, John, I'm over. I got cookies.
yeah, exactly. Just popping in. There's none of the pop in. It's too far. So.
That's good.
Yeah.
You need to control the pop in. Jackson, what about you?
For me, I kind of like spent it like just any other day, but I did talk to my mom and stuff. And like, yay, happy Mother's Day. Catch up a little bit. Always spend time with your family if you could, even if you're not close to them, right? You might as well drop by and say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
For the most part, though, it's been a pretty chill Sunday, right? Another Sunday. I thought we were gonna record yesterday because of I thought everyone was gonna be like really busy today for Mother's Day, but apparently it turns out well. And for your information, John, that's not so bougie and too fancy compared to what we heard from Ian. It's like, oh, I got this pistachio crumb covered rhubarb.
Get a 4-course meal. I know.
That's true. I did. It is true. I did have a little, yep.
I feel like Ian and I come from very similar families.
I mean, that's probably true. I have a weird mix in terms of like, we've definitely, so my grandparents were definitely very, they liked the finer things and had the means for that. And my direct nuclear family, my father kind of left home when he was younger and set out on his own. And he was like, I mean, he was in the rock and roll industry for a long time.
Oh, wow.
And also and theater and stuff like that, like the technical sides of it, right? Like
Right.
the sound and the staging and stuff like that. So I mean, he was a blue collar through and through guy, but he was also, he was raised by my grandparents, so so that's exactly what I got this blue collar, this blue collar upbringing where I was also like taught like what foie gras and escargot was from a young age. You know what I mean? It was a strange mix.
I mean,
strange mix for sure.
To be fair, you did have a working paid job at the age of 3.
That is true. I did, as we found out.
As we found out, which is pretty funny for the most part. But yeah, I'm glad you guys had a great Mother's Day. John, I hope you score under par.
I did not. I had a really good front nine. We were 2 over. I had 3 bogeys, 1 birdie. I was like, and I birdied on the 9th hole, so I was like, all right, good back nine. We're gonna maybe shoot par. And then I had 2 doubles on the back nine and ended up shooting 81, 7 over. So it was not
Well,
good.
it's still
but-
pretty close though overall.
Did I
so.
say 7 over? 9 over. Sorry.
9 over? I mean, that's not bad. It's way better than what me and Ian would do. So.
Oh, 100%. I would have gotten. There's like a mercy kill on every hole, right?
There's
like
not. Well,
there's-
there is once you set your handicap.
Okay, so
But if you have no handicap, you just have to play the ball until it goes in the hole.
Okay.
well, then we would still be. If I had gone out with you and your family, we'd still be there.
Well, okay, if we're playing recreationally, you can fucking do whatever you want. But yeah,
That's pretty.
anyway,
that's pretty
it was
great.
fun. But on to video games. On to
On to
why
video
people are
games.
actually listening. They don't care about our personal lives. They honestly
No,
don't.
no,
Maybe
no.
they
That
do.
is true,
I mean, maybe like
yeah.
generally, like, oh, I hope your family life's okay. But other than that, they don't care.
I like to treat that to all our viewers and listeners that they're like family to us, and they should kind of hear what we're doing. Right? We're all somewhat of a community family.
Does that
so-
mean I can like steal their allowance and like
Okay,
like,
maybe not.
like,
We had fun with it,
treat
you
them
know?
like my family treated me? Like, is that part of the deal?
We'll see. about
Sure,
that.
that's what everyone signs up for whenever they
Mom,
whenever
it's
they
my
follow and
turn to
subscribe.
play. Michael's hogging the N64. My mom hated us playing video games because of that. Especially if it was like a single player game. There's 4 kids. And it was so, oh God. It caused so many fights.
You know, in a way, that's actually going to tie into our topic later. Not necessarily with our siblings, but with friends. But for the most part, let's get down to the video game news. First off, let's talk about what happened last week. So the funny thing, we talked about HellDivers 2, and the moment we finished that recording, like that same night, how like there was a whole backlash about how you need to have PSN account to be linked for your Steam to be able to play the game, and the fact that the game was coming off the stores everywhere else that's being sold that can't be sold for PSN access in a way. Sony retracted the idea of doing that, and now there's no longer need for any Steam owner to actually link a PSN account, which is great. Now, John did bring up a good point that I'm not sure about either, pre-recording this, or pre-starting the recording, is the game still being able sold online on Steam in those countries that were taken down for? We don't know if they actually ever went back up for that. But I would say maybe it did, but a high chance that it probably didn't, and it might be in the works for getting it back up potentially now that you no longer need access to that. But that was a good point that you brought up though, because I didn't realize that could be a thing.
Yeah, and if people didn't listen to the last podcast, just to catch everybody up, like as Jackson said, there was a requirement that PlayStation or Sony had announced that if you're going to play HellDivers 2, you had to have a PSN account. And there are 177 countries currently that do not offer access to PlayStation Network, which is PSN. So Sony removed the game from those countries, and like off the top of my head, it's like Algeria, Egypt, Belarus, like countries like I would say like second and third world countries, if people still use those terminologies, or like developing and underdeveloped, or I don't know what the terminology is.
Sure.
Not the developed, especially like, and it's like not the developed West, I guess, is kind of like if you want to generally think about what has access to the PSN.
Right.
So then, literally that day when we were talking about it, I like to feel like we contributed to this, like someone at Sony like heard us or something. Sony walked it back, as Jackson said, so that now you do not need a PSN account to access the game or play the game or have to link it at all. But just clarifying what Jackson said earlier, we do not know if the game is being reinstated in those countries that they removed it from, those 177 countries that had no access to the PSN.
Right.
We don't know where they stand on that. I didn't do any research. That's on me. I'll do some research and see what happened. As Jackson said, I would suspect they would probably bring it back at some point just because it's extra sales. Like, why not?
Yeah,
But-
I mean, if they can, if they can, I don't see why they wouldn't. But this is still an extension of the conversation we had last time. Like Sony, on the other side, does have kind of always has an interest in trying to maintain exclusivity in any way it can, in anywhere it can. So this is exactly that. They have to sacrifice exclusivity in the interest of maintaining, some public image or whatever. So I don't know. We'll see. Right? We'll see what they do.
If anything, retracting the idea of doing that, or the account binding or linking, is like the first step in the right direction. It's funny because I saw that same night that negative review of like 200K went up to like mix, like instantly.
Yeah.
It was so crazy seeing how that turned out.
Yeah.
But that's the whole HellDivers thing. It's a good banding for all the folks out there that love the game. Wish they could do that for other games, but probably not as popular compared to like HellDivers 2, right? The fact that when I first saw that they retracted that statement, the first thing I saw was like mission order complete or something like that. Whatever it says on the for beating the mission in HellDivers. I thought that was pretty funny.
So yeah, I think like if I was gonna take anything away from this, like my two takeaways are, first off, from like a corporate standpoint, they will do this again. May not be Sony, it might not be the exact same thing, but they will continue to try to push, like as Ian said, exclusivity or control of their IP or whatever it is to the detriment of the consumer.
Yep.
But the positive aspect of this, in my opinion, is we do have a voice, and our voice can be heard as a consumer. So if we, and I don't want to say complain, but if we're loud enough and say no, stop, and we get together as a community or as a group and collectively say that, even without hurting them with our dollar, we can still create change. So I do think it's potentially a positive direction. Hopefully, as a consumer base, we can continue to band together. It's really hard to do that, and especially being as disorganized as we are. So I would suspect it probably won't be as successful in the future, unless it's something as egregious again. I would say this and like the EA Star Wars thing from like 10 years ago are like the two beacons of hope that like maybe we do have reason guiding our purchasing decisions within the video gaming industry. But who knows?
I would say the big one that I would love to see is, battle passes and microtransactions. That really needs to go. Like, it's fine if they do like a DLC, and it depends. And the content is worth the DLCs. Like, is it completely done? You look back at like Elden Ring 2, right? Like, were we satisfied for the most part? Yes, but was it a complete game? It wasn't. There were like 2 or 3, 4 like side story quests that were. I mean,
broken,
yeah, it doesn't really.
Stuff.
Yeah, it was broken. You couldn't finish it, and it was like really annoying. We were all on this little search treasure hunt and trying to maybe it's just hidden behind something, and we don't know it. But it turns out it was just broken. It wasn't fixed. It wasn't done. It wasn't ready, and we had to wait.
And they even had like, I mean, some of it's intentional, right? The Colosseum in Elden Ring, right? With Big Jar, with Giant Jar, that they put that in there, knowing like with full knowledge and full intent to communicate to the player, like, you can't go here yet. It exists. You can see it. It's not real yet, but it will be at some point, Which is like, I don't know. I'm fine with that, right? Just making one asset, right? Plopping it down as like a teaser for like, we're working on this. That's fine. That is fine. But I mean, you're right. They released a game knowing that they were gonna put more into it and expand it.
It's just I think that's fine because it literally tells you not ready yet. But when it comes to like a side quest that it's already vague enough in like any like Souls-like game, when you're doing side quests like that, you don't know whether it's gonna be broken or not until someone really deep dives into the code.
Yeah.
And that's fair, but there wasn't any, when they did fix it, there wasn't any monetary extra. It wasn't like it was in the game, you had to access it or something. They just screwed up.
Yeah.
And screw ups happen. And like, that's a benefit to the online connectedness of video games today, in that they can patch that in. Whereas if they just launched the game, like, it's broken. Oh, well, sorry, we'll make a new one soon, maybe.
At least the thing I like about
tying this back to your comment on like loot boxes and microtransactions, like Europe has already like banned them pretty much. Like, it's like literally
Asia
considered
too.
gambling. So if America is going to catch up to that, it has to be through legislation. I would see no other possible pathway to removing microtransactions or loot boxes without U.S. government intervention declaring that is gambling, that is illegal for minors to do. You cannot put that in your game.
I think we're like the last ones, because I think Asia already did it too in some parts of it. So, and the thing is, like, people in America love gambling, right? That's why we have like all these casinos and stuff. I mean, obviously they're localized. Like, they have to get like certain deeds for it and stuff, but there's still a lot of
casinos are on Indian or Native American reservations. Like, they're not allowed by the U.S. government.
Yeah, but gambling in the United States is a very, very interesting thing, with a lot of just really interesting legislation that comes from state individual opinions on what can and can't be done, and a lot of that legislation, honestly, well, not a lot. Some of it came about at times when a lot of like religious force and religious pressure unique into different states was guiding legislation at the time. I've actually, years ago, I did a non-trivial amount of study on gambling legislation in the United States for other reasons. But yeah, no, it is very interesting. And the economics of it are very interesting too. And yeah, but I mean, you're right. Like, the U.S. does like to gamble, and loot boxes kind of they very directly play into that same like feedback, that same feeling, that same activity, and yeah, Europe and whatnot has already shown that you can get rid of it by saying that you're not allowed to do it, and that's kind of it, because otherwise it is a good business model from just the standpoint of the money, right? If I'm a soulless corporation, it's a great business model. There's no reason for me to not do it until I'm not allowed to.
Here's the dumb thing though, like when it comes to those kind of things, like eventually those games either die off and they shut down, and then, like all that literally means nothing. Like there's no monetary value for that compared to like actual gambling, I guess, because you actually spend it on, I guess, real things. But
So you're talking about the user, the gambler, has no physical reward after they're done gambling.
I would say it's still bad in general, but I mean it's even worse because there is no real reward because it's eventually just going to disappear, just like everything does.
Yeah, I mean, well, I feel like it gets even more interesting in the cases that that's not true. Like Counter-Strike, for instance, right? That when you open those loot boxes and you get the, whatever shiny, fancy, Technicolor Dreamcoat knife, you can sell that, right? You can sell that for real monies, and so you can walk away with something.
Yeah, it depends on the game, though, right? There are some
Yeah.
games that just don't work. Like Counter-Strike, I don't think will ever die. It'll be the same for like Dota,
Yeah.
or League, I guess. Like those games just kind of never like really die out. And then they have good. Well, I know League has a decent models. Like you don't have to spend the money on this. Like you get the rotations and everything. Like you can play the game perfectly fine without any of that. If you really want something like a skin, that's all you're gonna get out of it. Or I guess I don't know what else like they purchase, or if you like a very specific hero, I guess. But other than that, like it's a nice free to play game.
Yeah.
At least when I was playing it.
Well, it's so. I mean, back to where this started about affecting, decisions from video game companies, publishers, developers, anyone. I mean, this whole like the loot box thing. So unlike microtransactions, I feel like for the most part, a lot of people, microtransactions in their ugliest form, I think most people agree. I don't want that. I would rather a world where I don't have that. But I understand that I'm a price taker, not a price setter, and I understand that there's a business behind making video games. And though I'm getting ripped off, they will still say they need that money. So I put up with a necessary evil. But if I could do away with it, I would. Loot boxes, I feel like. So I agree. I'm with you. I don't think it's a great addition to video games. It's a thing that I would never miss if it disappeared from the face of the earth. But I don't think that opinion is I don't think gamers are that homogenous on that, right? Like I think that a lot of people, because I watch them do it like on Twitch and whatnot, people that play Counter-Strike a lot, they love doing that. And like some of them do it for the content, but I know that there's people that like they enjoy doing the whole loot box thing, right? Even though like, yeah, they got to pay for the key to unlock it and whatever. They're still like,
to be fair,
I don't think they'd want to get rid of it. You know what I mean?
To be fair, it does bring a nice euphoric action, right?
Right? Yeah.
You pull the thing that you want, but
Hey, pulling the slot machine lever makes the happy things go off in your head. Like I totally get it. And then, but that's what I'm saying. Like I don't think that gamers would all rally around this cry of like, let's get rid of loot boxes. I think you're gonna have there's people that are going to say no. I want that.
Oh well, we can talk about this all day, every day, if we wanted to, because this is a topic that will just never die. Obviously, it's one of those topics, right? A never-ending spectacle on something that's continually going to be around for quite a long time, and we don't know. There's no, the sunrise is not it's not setting anytime soon for that one. In lighter news, though, obviously there was the announcement like, oh yeah, we're finally releasing the Switch 2 in like March of 25th or 2025, sometime next year. But what's coming up in like next month though, in June of 2024, almost at 23, is there's a software lineup for the Nintendo Switch coming up, which I'm not sure what that means exactly, but if they're saying software, maybe there might be new emulator products for the Switch store. So I know John was maybe excited that if it was that, it would be like, and the GameCube, right? GameCube?
I would be very interested in the GameCube, playing a GameCube game on my Switch. Absolutely, like the Wind Waker. Or, I can't think of any game. I have GameCube, Luigi's Mansion, Mario Party 4, that Star Fox Adventures game that's terrible. I don't know, so anything like that. Double Dash, Mario Kart, that would be cool.
Billy Hatcher.
Yeah.
Billy Hatcher's up there. That's another one up there. As far as like, I'm just really curious what they mean by software. I mean, I would assume that might be that because the fact that Nintendo's like very adamant about their own IPs and stuff, that they cut off everything, and it's so hard to access a lot of this stuff. So I'm really curious to see how it goes. Maybe potentially the Wii. I think the Wii would probably be an easier thing to port because the fact that the Joy-Cons basically work as Wiimotes.
Right.
So that's potentially a potential thing that could be phased in for that. But that's also like, if you're doing that as like the last lineup for like literally half a year until like your new product comes out, I'm a little more curious to see how this is going to turn out in terms of.
I still like, I don't really know what all that means. You know, I still don't like, I don't know if anyone knows that many technical details about the Switch 2, but I don't know how much of a hardware ramp up it is from the Switch 1. I don't know what compatibility is. I don't know.
I think it's all speculation right now.
Right. Which is even what, like, they're saying.
I do know one thing. It's gonna be portable.
So, and sorry, clarify for me again. By March of next year, we maybe think is the horizon. We're going to get the product, or we're going to get definitive information on the product.
The announcement was by the end of Nintendo's fiscal year, which ends in March of 2025, they will showcase the Switch 2.
Showcase, okay,
and it will be then sold most likely, as they've done with every other console, that following Q4 or our Q4.
Yeah. In time for the holidays, essentially.
The holiday season. I just Googled the Switch 2 specs. Apparently, this was a leak. It was leaked that it will. The first leak comes from popular Nintendo message board called Fammy Boards. I don't know, which dug into shipments of custom data between Nintendo, Nvidia, and other companies. Their findings suggest that the Switch 2 will have a 12 gigabytes of RAM with two 6 gigabyte LPDDR5X modules. The RAM would offer 7,500 MTs per second transfer and have 256 gigabyte of UFS 3.1 storage.
Okay.
I know half of that stuff, but
so it's the very next statement is, while that doesn't sound like much in the world of Xbox or PlayStation consoles, which feature 1 terabyte or more, compared to the 64 gigabytes offered with the Switch OLED, it's a big jump. So it's still going to be an inferior product to supposedly, which is par for Nintendo. Nintendo's always gone soft on specs.
Yeah, I mean that's their model.
Yeah, I mean, and it's because kids don't care. You know, like kids don't buy 4K gaming. Gamers like us do. You know what I mean? Like we care about that. Kids don't.
I don't care about 4K gaming as much. But I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think the cool thing though is like they talk about like the storage and whatever. The fact is like the Switch, you can just swap that out real quick for a different card. You know, like you just put an new SD card in. Okay, I got more storage, and this one will have the other games that I want to play on whenever I want to play that. So that is the benefit for that one. Outside of like, they say it's not big jump, but I guess it. I mean, yes, internal storage wise, that's good, but I mean, you still have external storage, which you can easily do as well. As far as like more RAM is good to help process the whatever they're making in those certain games. Hopefully, games like the last Pokemon that came out will run better.
Yeah.
But that also
Mortal
depends.
Kombat, the pictures of that Mortal Kombat 1 game were just...
Man, yeah.
You should not be playing heavily
had to,
intensive graphic games on a Switch.
They like didn't have like they like disabled facial animation and stuff. They disabled a bunch of stuff that would like slow down processing just so that the game could run smoothly. Great work. Great
There's
work
a lot
all
of
around.
things that are like... I think the Switch is great for playing Nintendo Switch games. It is not good for playing games that are built for anything else.
Agreed.
Like even Dark Souls, like if you play Dark Souls handheld, it runs at 30 frames per second.
Yeah.
Hey, it's
It's
taking
just
you back
like,
to
yuck.
Xbox 360 and PS3 days, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
Let's go down to Blight
Pretty
Town.
much.
Oh, dude, it probably would be about 8 frames.
Oh man. I mean, we'll see what happens. You know, next. Are
you guys excited about it? Like, what do you think? What do you think? Like, to me,
About the
it just
Switch?
feels like it's gonna be like maybe a more powerful Switch. I think the only reason why you buy it is if like there's a cool game that comes out, like a new Mario that's like Odyssey but better, which they'll
Yeah.
probably have, as well as like maybe a new Zelda, maybe
think-
in like 3 years.
I think typically it's always Mario, right? They got it's like the flagship game, flagship IP that comes out for every new console.
Yep.
It's always been, right, for most part. And then like Zelda comes down like maybe like half a year later, typically.
So actually, I was listening to another podcast about Zelda. So like a specific about Zelda. It was actually really interesting because it was like back in 2016. But they were talking about how Nintendo actually always plans for Zelda and Mario to be on the launch titles, but Zelda
Really?
is always delayed. Zelda's always delayed, even starting all the way back. So Zelda's like delayed it 2 years. I think it's the most delay it's ever been, and that was Ocarina of Time, I believe. Supposed to come
Wow.
out in '96 and came out in '98.
Wow.
That's to be fair though. That game was like a new standard for a lot of people.
Well, it was
True,
going to be
true.
97, and Nintendo gave the dev team one more year, and no one wanted to. Apparently, this is all from the podcast. Apparently, no one wanted. They had interviewed some of the people who worked on the game, and they said like no one wanted to say this, but they were all really thankful they got an extra year to work on the game.
Huh.
Yeah, because it was going to be way different and stuff. And apparently, it was going to originally Ocarina of Time was going to be first person.
Oh,
Wow.
I would not be able to
with
play
the
that.
slingshot and everything else, like was that Miyazaki? No, Miyamoto.
No,
Miyamoto like
Miyazaki.
Miyamoto wanted a first-person game, and apparently, if you work for Miyamoto, and he says he wants something in the game, it doesn't matter how hard it is or how stupid you think it is, you have to make it work. So like that's why there's all this like first-person stuff with like shooting and aiming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then they like had to like walk it back because I guess it was just like unplayable from like a normal
Yeah, I
perspective.
would. Like, yeah, if you just think about going through all of that game in just first person, like with the way like controls work and stuff like that, yeah, that would not. Ooh, that'd be rough. It was a good move to walk it back to third person.
So anyway, the Zelda games have only gotten progressively more delayed. Not in terms of like time, but just like from the time the console released, which is why Breath of the Wild was released on both the Wii U and the Switch.
Yeah, because it was originally supposed to be like, you know, it was in Wii U timing, and
Yeah.
then they're like, well, nope, sorry, hardware's ready. We're pushing forward with the
Exactly.
Switch. Yeah.
So I suspect that like mid to end life cycle, the Switch 2 will get a new Zelda.
I mean, it was kind of like that for Twilight Princess as well, man. Because it was on the
no,
GameCube.
every Zelda. Like think
Yeah.
about any Zelda, it was delayed. Like
Yeah.
That's really crazy to think about, but yeah, that's wow. I
so
guess
we'll probably get one for the Switch too.
yeah, probably be delayed though. Well, actually, maybe not as much because they kind of know what the form is like with the new. I wouldn't say new, but like the hardware type of console is still gonna have like the same kind of like gyros and all that, so they might have a better idea on like how to go about this. Just more processing power to really handle the stuff that they want to do.
Yeah.
But is it gonna be delayed? Probably, just like usual, but probably not as much compared to like the first Breath of the Wild and Twilight Princess. But it's interesting that I never knew that they were both like supposedly launch titles. At least Zelda.
Yeah, intended
neither
to
did
be.
I.
Yeah. That's wild. Yeah, I mean, you asked John. You asked if we're excited about it. Like So you said already, right? The Switch, Nintendo, their positioning in the market, they shoot under where PlayStation and Xbox go in terms of specs, because that's not what they prioritize, and to a certain extent they don't need to, because they dominate in terms of exclusivity. So software, the hardware can be whatever's functional, basically. And there's some nice things to be said about the Switch being portable and as strong as it is for being lightweight and portable. But yeah, am I excited about a slightly better, technically inferior hardware if the only thing that it is a hardware bump, right? Not like I'm distinguishing right between like the Wii U to the Switch is not a hardware bump, right? That's an entire change of
Right,
platform.
but Wii to Wii U?
Right. So Wii to Wii U, yeah. I mean, though that's also a platform jump, right? Like Wii U games don't run on a Wii, right? So and it is like
Are
form wise.
Switch games gonna run on Switch too?
That's what I'm saying. So am I excited if the Switch 2 is only a hardware bump? No, I'm not excited at all. Why? Like I'm not excited about a hardware bump of an inferior hardware in the market, right? But if it is like a new platform, then maybe I look twice, maybe. You know, but even then, it kind of depends on what's going on. It I don't even take my Switch with me when I travel anymore. I just take my analog pocket.
The big thing is that what Ian's saying, right, is the fact that if I can still play these Switch games on my Switch 1, is it really gonna be worth just upgrading for hardware to run things
Guys,
more capable?
This is just speculation, but this is Nintendo. I do not suspect you're gonna be able to plug in your Switch thing into the Switch, unless you have to buy some like a $200 adapter.
Right,
I do
right,
not
right.
see the ability to do that.
The big thing is like, is the cartridge going to be the same? That's the big thing. That'll determine things, and then whether or not when someone tests, obviously someone's going to test it. Boop. All right, cool, we're good. But the thing is,
like, I mean, I'm sure you can just put like a lock on it, right? Like, I'm sure someone could jailbreak it too. And like, if the cartridges are the same, I speculate that it will not allow natively Switch 1 games to be played on Switch 2. Absolutely not. Like, how old is the Switch? Like, not thinking of the OLED. Like, when did the Switch come out? 2016 or something? Like, it's old.
it was a long time ago. Yeah, 2016.
There is no way they want you to just keep those games and like maybe buy some new ones. They want you to rebuy everything. Absolutely.
Looks like 2017, but all the same.
Yeah.
It's been around for a bit.
That's 7 years. That's a long time for a console.
The thing is, like, let's put all that aside of like compatibility issues or compatibility stuff. If I'm excited for it, would I buy it right away? Probably not, because typically there's not a lot of. It's just like every other new console that ever comes out, right? There's not gonna be a whole big lineup. And then here's the thing with Nintendo too. With Nintendo, nothing will ever really go on sale. So
That is true.
whether you wait 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, stuff is always gonna be the same price.
I bought Breath of the Wild, the first one, in 2019, which was 2 or 3 years after release. It was still $60. I bought it to play a GDQ when I went. So
if anything,
that's how
like
I
we're not
remember.
really missing out on anything if we wait that long in terms of like you just wait. Honestly,
What's
Yeah.
what price do you guys envision the Switch 2 being, knowing nothing about it?
the first one was like 300, right?
$299,
MSRP.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'd probably say like 350, 400.
It really depends on like what it is. So I know you just read off the tech specs. The thing is like, so what was the PS5? Is that 4?
$499.
4, yeah. So 5.
So it was 5 for the like. There was one with like with a disc drive.
Yep,
and
with
one
a disc
without.
and one that was all
And I think
digital, and there was
was,
$100
like-
price difference.
Oh, I thought it was 50, but yeah, there was
Oh,
a
it might have
price
been.
difference.
Yeah, yeah, $50 or $100 price difference, something like that. So you're in the $400, $500 range for something that's that powerful. The Switch is still I mean, it's a mobile thing, right? It's a mobile gaming platform. It's hard to push. Like just from pure an inflation standpoint, right? If the Switch was $300 and it came out 7 years ago, like this is supposed to be tech specs are supposed to be better, and it's been 7 years. And inflation over COVID and production side prices were real rough for a couple years. Like 400 is the number that I would go to first, but I find it really hard to believe they're going to sell a mobile platform for 400. I don't know.
I totally agree. Let me just. Your math is solid and it makes sense, but let me just walk this back to say the SNES was $199. I think the NES was $199. I think the N64 was like $200, $250, maybe $299. They've always been $199 to $299, regardless of the year. Like I don't.
Video games have always been $60
exactly.
since the 90s.
I see this being
like,
$299. I don't see this being any more.
I would say like if the most absurd one would be like if it's 400. My max, what I would like to put it would be like 350, and like 300 would be the same.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them going to 349. Like maybe 349, like 350, but they always do the 99.99 because people are stupid.
What was
But
what was the GameCube at?
I want to say it was 299.
Yeah, look at the GameCube, the Wii, and the Wii U. Like, especially the Wii U, because the Wii U was the big flop.
It was
out of all of
199.
them.
GameCube was 199.
So okay, so we have. I mean, we've gone up.
Wii was 249. By the way.
We was
Wow.
$249. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've gone up
Wii U or
$100
Wii?
from $100 from the cube, which is right. So like there is still, I mean, there is still inflationary like force on these pricings on
Wii
hardware
U was
pricings.
299. So it might be 350.
Yeah. Like I can understand that they would be willing to take a loss. And again, I don't believe in 400 for this because I'm sure that Nintendo knows that the market would not react well to
Especially for a portable
pricing
device.
a mobile machine at $400.
You
Like
buy, that's runs at maybe 720, maybe 1080
Yeah.
at 60 frames per second, and then you can get the PS4 or the Xbox for $100 more or $50 more, and it's or I don't know the multiplication times better, but it's a lot better.
Yeah.
Spec wise, like no way.
Though it is incredible, like we are saying this and we all agree and we all understand. I feel like a lot of people listening or other people that you could talk to about this that understand from at least the gamers side of it, understand the gaming market, right? And we all agree, yeah, oh yeah, $400 for a mobile machine, the Switch, the market would never take it. Meanwhile, smartphones where you buy them unchained from a provider are have been what $800 to $1,200
It's
for
ridiculous.
years, yeah.
Or I mean, dude, even the Steam.
Oh, yeah,
mobile is like
the-
350, isn't it?
The Steam Deck.
No, I think it's like 500, dude.
No, 500.
I mean, I see one for sale on Amazon right now for $499.
Let me go onto Steam and they always try to sell it to me on Steam.
It's definitely
Steam
in the
Deck
500.
349.
Okay, but and you can get different storage capacities and stuff in it, so I'm sure that there's a price scale.
The 256 gigabyte LCD is $399.
Okay.
The 512 gigabyte OLED is $549, and the 1 terabyte is $649.
There you go.
$649, man.
But the thing with
but-
that one is like you're basically getting a computer
yeah,
as well.
you
mobile
are
computer.
getting a kind of a
What are the
chopped
specs
down.
of the? I've never looked at it. The Steam Deck. What are the specs of it?
It has to be pretty good because it can run really
Oh,
high
it's
end
right.
games.
It's literally right in front of me. Let's see. 60. Oh, so the cheapest one runs at 60 frames per second. The middle one 90 frames. The highest one is also 90 frames. Let's see.
90 is a weird target. I got like now, like in the current day, and like I get it. And if you're playing on the Steam Deck, I feel like you don't. I'm surprised you need more than 60, if I'm being honest. But like,
Right.
90 just seems like a weird target. I would have thought they'd go to 120.
I wouldn't mind having that 90 target because it gives leeway, right? Leeway for things to fall down if it's like
Sure,
chunking too hard.
sure, yeah.
And then you're still hitting 60 at least. Unlike
So-
30.
It also, each one of them have different, as I mentioned, varying storage capacity, but they're all in solid state drives. Does the Switch have a solid state drive?
With that form factor, it has to, doesn't it? Like, think about
I
how
have no
slim.
idea.
It depends. They have to use like an
Does
M.2
anyone
drive,
use
right?
hard drives anymore?
You in gaming, you mean?
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not sure. To
I
be
mean,
honest,
I have a hard drive, don't get me wrong, and also a solid state drive. But I meant like, yeah, in a console. Because I've never really looked into that specifically.
If they do the form factor the way they do it, they have to use like an M.2 solid state drive instead of like your standard like for like Sony or
Right.
like Xbox. You can put like an
Mhm.
SSD in there through like a tray or something. But in that format, you have to use like a really small little thing.
Well, this says NVMe SSD. That's what they have, which I have no idea what that is.
I can't recall that, but if it's an SSD, it's an SSD. If
Yeah.
that's the speculation for the Switch 2.
No, this is for the Steam Deck.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Switch.
No, my question is, does the Switch even use an SSD?
I thought you were looking.
I'm
at the
pretty sure
specification
it
for that.
does. I'm looking right now. So the other one that you said, the NVMe, NVMe, is like, so those are like, they plug in like more Man, is that, do they mount PCIe? I don't remember. They're like little strips. They're only like,
Yeah, they're
like
basically
a strip.
M.2 drives.
Yeah, they're basically M.2 drives. Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Is that what all consoles are using now? Well, sorry,
feel
like-
handhelds.
I'm not
Uh,
sure.
I don't know. The only people that still do handhelds like that are
I'm pretty positive. I'm looking now. The Switch.
Nintendo.
I'm pretty sure the Switch is solid. It does use a solid state drive, which again doesn't surprise me much. With the fact that it's supposed to be mobile, right? So you have to move it around, and its form factor is pretty small. Like it would.
Well, it's
solid
not
state
just
makes
that
sense.
too, but most of the time, like a lot of these mobile consoles, they use in tandem. Most of the time, all your games are gonna be on SD cards.
That is true.
That is that's the big kicker right there. And then I'll let John see what the rest of the specs are on the original Switch 1 if the
I
hard
got
drive.
it. I have a huge. Okay, it's not huge, but I do. Okay, so I have. It's from 7 years ago. It's on our Nintendo Switch. So who knows who this guy is? But this is technical details. In those in the know won't find it shocking at all that the memory is being provided by Toshiba. The specific part is the THGB MHG8 C2 LBAIL.
We don't care about the memory. We care about the
A 32 gigabyte 153 pin FPGA eMMC 5.1 complement module, 400 megabytes per second read speed. And it says for the non-techies, that means it's fast. How fast? It's faster than any storage in your computer, even an SSD, unless your SSD is from the past 2 years. And that was back in 2017.
Sure.
What this means for gaming, provides a lot more flexibility with the 4 gigabytes of RAM that the Switch has. The Switch only has 4 gigabytes of RAM. Oh my God.
I mean, all I cared about was the actual hardware. Not the hardware, the hardware storage.
Too late. You're learning everything.
Gotcha.
4 gigabytes of RAM.
I know.
That's why I wasn't chugging so hard, or that's why I
But
was
it's
chugging
got
so hard.
32, gigs of memory.
You mean
Or
32
of
gigs
storage,
of
you mean?
Some storage, I mean.
Yeah.
Sorry.
storage. Yeah, I was gonna say,
That's
like, if they had 32 gigs of memory, I don't think a lot of games would be chugging so
No.
hard,
Man,
rendering
4?
everything.
Wow.
But
Nintendo they do the bare minimum of what they need to when it comes to hardware.
I'd say everything, dude. Like,
I know,
and here's
I know,
why.
I know.
And like, I don't know why some companies do. Like, Disney comes to mind. Nintendo's another one. I think it's just like ones that like suck you into childhood. I think is the theme that I've noticed. But it's like they can do no wrong to the people who are like their loyalists.
Sure.
There are people who will defend these companies, which is just insane to me. First off, that you would ever defend a company, but it's like, yeah, no, that's okay, and here's why. And you just sit there and you're like, dude, do you hear yourself? Like, what?
yeah, that's fair for the most part. Sorry, I just trying to turn myself up. I totally forgot about doing this, but I don't know. We'll see how that turns out. We can talk about speculations all day and how things what will be better, the pricing.
That's fun. That's the fun part of talking is speculating.
That's the fun part. We gotta move on to like the other stuff too.
That's true. We do.
We do have to move on to the other stuff. For the most part, are we excited? In a way, yes. But at the same time, we can just wait on it, right?
Well,
Yeah, I'm sitting wait right now.
I'm not gonna go pre-buy it. I'm not a pre-buyer, so I'm not gonna do that. But let me just say, if they say day one new Mario, I'll probably have to pull the trigger.
Fair enough.
Especially if it's like a Odyssey style, not like a Wonder. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
I might have to pull the
What if they
trigger.
did like something like Galaxy again?
Yeah, absolutely. I've never played Galaxy, so anything like that would be super cool.
A new main title Mario, I'd be excited to. Like we'll see what it's like. We'll see what it is. Whatever. I like. They don't main title Marios. I feel like they don't really miss that often. I feel like they do pretty well with that. Tertiary stuff, hit. Some like it, some don't. Whatever. But I'm with John on that one. If they announce day one Mario, day one Zelda, there's if they
the day one Zelda is not happening, dude.
Dude.
no, I know.
I'm
We
calling it right now.
just had that conversation.
Day one Donkey Kong.
That, you know what? Honestly, the other one that I was the one that I had sitting, I was waiting. I was going to lean in and say it. I was going to say Metroid Prime 4.
Metroid, yeah. The funny thing is,
I was thinking that too.
like Donkey Kong and Metroid, they're running like the same studio, so there's a possibility that could happen. But we'll see. We'll see. We haven't seen any Donkey Kong stuff in a while.
I'm sorry, I just got to say it. New Star Fox.
That's a rare bird.
Yeah, that is a rare bird, and I do want it because the last Star Fox, the Wii U one, like I feel like was really kind of a flop. And
they're gonna go back to the rail shooter.
Yeah, they might. I feel like, you know, like maybe they're kind of scared, and that, like, scared's an aggressive term, but they're just not sure from like a marketing and direction standpoint what they want to do and what they can get away with. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe.
Okay, I'll put my dark horse in.
Okay.
I want an actual F-Zero game.
F-Zero. Everyone talks about F-Zero. Am I the only one who doesn't like it? Am I the only one who sits there and goes like, "This is it. This is what everyone's been clamoring about for like 20 years."
It was like one of those games that I just kind of grew up playing. Right, like it was one of the games that I played a lot as a child, and I loved F-Zero as a racing speed game.
Okay,
you know, that's my preferred one. So
now, if it's F-Zero, but it's like, remember the old Pod Racer game where you could like upgrade your engine and like buy new parts and like I'd be into that. I would definitely be into that.
Yeah, I'm down for that. You know, it's just give us a real F-Zero game and not that F-Zero 99.
Combine it with a side scroller beat 'em up and I'm in. We're like Captain Falcon.
Yeah,
he races and then he's like at the bar and he's like beating people up and like then he goes to the next race.
I'll be down for that.
I'd play that. Yeah. I have always been a big fan of combined multi-genre games.
Yes,
I've had, you know, like I feel like most people that have played a lot of video games and describe themselves as a gamer. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe you're all going to tell me I've lost it. But I've always had like in the back of my head that if I made a real game, this is what my game would be, and it's always been at least two. And when I've thought about it recently, like 3 genres, like genre trade-off style game. Love the multi-genre game. Big fan.
Dude, absolutely. And I also love like Nier Automata did it really well, but also just multi-style within a genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
Changing it up and stuff like that, coupled with like I've always loved like the horror comedy mix, or you know, like in movies and stuff, like and games can do that too. And I think you're onto something there.
Nier Automata is a good example. My classic, the one I always go back to is ActRaiser, right? Like it's basically like a city builder and then a side scroller action adventure. You know, like that's revolutionary.
Huge.
Yeah, for the most part, I mean, I think we all got our picks right there. And other news, because I know we can talk about this all day, and I love talking about this stuff, but we got to start moving on to like the other topic, the main topic and stuff. But the Hades 2 was released. I think a lot of people have been playing that. That one came out of nowhere, you know, honestly, if I was being for real.
Yeah, I mean, it was like a shadow drop early release. Am I right? I haven't played it.
It's early access right now. It's still not done. Like by the time the game is done, you will be able to go further than you can go right now. I think I don't know. I can't say with confidence that you get like hit the midway point or something, and then the back half isn't developed. I don't know where the line is drawn, but from what I've seen and heard, there's a lot more than was in the tech test. Like a lot more. And the people that have been playing it have been loving it. Like there's enough content to keep yourself busy for right now. I haven't picked it up yet. Even though I did have a copy for the tech test, I was super bummed to find that they didn't just give me a free copy. Like, come on. No, I'm totally kidding. I'm completely kidding. But yeah, no, I kind of had the same. I feel like I don't want to like take, you know, I don't want to speak for John, but I think I had a similar position, similar feeling to what you had said days past, that like sounds great, but I'm okay to just wait for a bit. Like maybe wait until it's fully done, but that's going to be a year, probably at least. That's going to be an early access. But yeah, I'm not in a rush. It looks great, but I'll wait a little bit.
Ever since like Darkest Dungeon. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say I think I saw like the version was like 0.8 right now on early access. Okay. So.
Yeah, like ever since Darkest Dungeon 2, and I didn't even buy it. I just watched people play it and like how disappointed it was. Now, not saying that people are disappointed. This game is actually the opposite. People are saying Hades 2 is just like Hades in that it like how well it executes and stuff. But like Darkest Dungeon 2 really showed me that like, man, even a really good developer can make some bad decisions, and like, should I support that? So I guess my question to you guys is, what, like, we don't know where the line is, but we know that the game's not finished yet, and they still chose just like randomly to shadow drop. What do you think that tells you about the state of the game? Do you think they're low on money and they were worried, so they're like, let's just push it out now, people will buy it and we'll get some quick cash and we can then like handle what we need to handle? Was it just because of the testing and they thought the testing went so well? Like, why do you guys think that they just like chose to release this really anticipated game, I should say, unfinished and so like early and without any warning? To me, there's some red flags there.
Well, I mean, so what did they do with Hades 1? I know Hades 1 was in early access for like a year. And so when it was first released, was it released in the same state? Could you only get halfway through hell or whatever?
I don't know, but I will say it was not expected. It didn't have the popularity that this one has.
I will say at the time when I first played Hades, when I first bought it, it was still in early access. And I was telling everyone at the time, like, dude, this is going to be like the next big hit game that you should probably try it out and play it. I've been trying to get so many people to freaking play it back then that like they just wrote me off until they saw like either like the big streamers like Barb, Laser, all these other people that are playing the game. And they're like, oh, dude, Hades is so good, man. I was like, bro, I told you this like months ago to just give this game a shot, and you're going to love it. And it's going to be the next big hit for like quite some time. It just has great replay value. But I'm over the fact that I talked about this before with some other people. I was like, I told people about this game. It still stings me in the back when I give these recommendations. And people, I know I give some pretty bad ones once in a while, right? But I don't know, man. That was just like a big middle finger in my face. And I was like, dude. But yeah, the same state of the game when it first released was early access, and it still played great. Like you can only reach up to like a certain point, but that certain point was like so well done. Like I don't think they were hurting for cash or anything. They just think they had a really good build. And like, hey, play this for now. And then usually it came out like the full build came out like maybe like a couple months later once it was like good. And I was like, finished, right? So I can see that they'd probably be done here pretty soon.
So I'm looking into history.
Chime in really quick. I believe they said they won't be done till 2025.
That's about right. Half a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking into history a little bit. Apparently, actually, Hades 1 was in early access for nearly 2 years. And the choice to do early access was not, and you know, whenever any company says anything, right, you gotta, there's always
there's
a
a
bit
public
of truth.
statement, and then there's the actual
there's a bit of truth in what they say, and then there's a bit of, you know, something else there, right? But I mean, also this is Supergiant Games, right? They did fine. They did great with all of their other releases. They're a small company. They tried to never bite off more than they could chew, and I financially and in terms of public reception, I think they succeeded just fine. Great, in fact. So when they went to release Hades, their statement was they wanted to make a game where they could actually involve their player base, their community in the production process earlier, in the development process earlier, and actively take in and respond and mold around feedback and input. So they released Hades. I believe that. So they released Hades like pretty early in its development, when it was, you know, it didn't have nearly as many of the elements that it did by the time it was completed. And I guess they would, you know, actively pay attention, watch, listen, whatever, and continue molding and redirecting and developing the game for those almost 2 years until the product was finalized. So it's basically like, I mean, there's like the nasty way and the friendly way to think about that. The nasty way is you're paying to be a playtester. That's thing one. But the other side of it is you're buying a product and you get the right and the opportunity to influence its development in your favor. And, you know, it's as from what I can tell, that is actually what happened. You know, whether or not they did it because for financial motivation or for other things, like I kind of feel like it's not mutually exclusive. It can be both. It can be a good financial decision that guarantees a better cash flow, you know, yada, 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 business jargon. But that also, like, it is also a consumer benefit. It's a net consumer good. So that's, you know, and we're not talking about Sony. I know, like, no company is beyond reproach, and, you know, like, I'm not saying every company is inherently evil through and through to its core, but like any, you know, the company's job is to make money, so you should always approach with caution. But this is Supergiant Games, not Sony. You know, like as far as track records go, I'm willing to trust them a bit more than you know the giant evil people.
That's totally fair. I guess from my perspective, with a game that's like Silksong, right? Just the delay, the lack of communication, no information. Like I see that, and then like I don't see them just shadow dropping the game one day in early access and being like, "Hey, tell us what you think." You know, like I think they're waiting until it's a finished product to push it out.
No,
and then
I agree.
And then I see this game that's just as equally anticipated, in my mind anyway. Maybe that's not true. Equally anticipated, and it's just like one day it's just like, hey, play half the game.
Oh, so sure, but you know what? That's cheating, whatever. The type of game that it is lends itself very well to that style of release development. Yeah. And I think, again, from their statements about Hades 1, that was intentional. They chose a game of a type of a play style that would lend itself, lend itself well, would be very, well suited for this whole idea of, which again, this is not novel to Supergiant Games. I feel like smaller developers have done this plenty throughout, recent history. But yeah, it would lend itself well to here's some of the game that's meant to be replayed in loops, in cycles, in packets. Play it, feel it out, tell us what you like and what you don't like, what's got you excited, what doesn't, and then we continue to develop a game about that. Silksong could never get away with that, right? Like the entire thing, like the Hollow Knight thing is the atmosphere and like the story and the, just the small elements that all build up. Like releasing 50% of that is going to be like a marred experience, I feel like.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. I guess I was just looking at it in that, like, I just thought they would wait to launch the full game. Maybe that's like an old school thinking, like thought. Maybe games today, especially roguelikes like this. Like I know Darkest Dungeon, I played it in early access, the first one. And it was in there for a long time, a couple of years as well.
I think some games are appropriate for release styles like that, personally.
Yeah, I just think there are some games that just never leave that early access, which is it's like,
I think it's wasn't PUBG early access like forever? Isn't it still or
it
something?
Might still be, yeah.
That's funny.
Mean, the one that comes to my mind is Starfield. Wait, was it called Starfield or no? The Star Citizen.
Star Citizen.
Yes, where they've gotten literally like $10 million plus in Kickstarters or whatever, and they've literally done nothing.
Yeah.
We should do that, guys. We can make a video game.
Oh God, no!
Make a video game. Yep.
Hey, it's Kickstarter. It's just like legalized stealing.
Yep. It's kind of sort of pyramid scheme, but not really. There's some of those. There's a better comp than that.
I think the main place that they do like these sort of Kickstarter for indie games now is like Indiegogo is instead of like Kickstarter. So that's like the more go-to one. And I usually check it out to see if there's like any like cool games coming out. But cool.
Oh,
Hades
well,
2.
let me just plug somebody. HD Cage really quick. His game Splody I think comes out next month.
Oh, fantastic.
Finally, yeah, it's awesome.
I think in June. And I don't know how much I'm allowed to say and stuff, but it could be it might be good. It might be good. So there's some like famous people who are like some publisher or something. I don't know. So
okay.
Anyway,
we'll definitely
we'll
check it out.
Yeah.
Hey, if you guys don't remember, sorry to cut you off, John. We did do our very first interview episode with HT Cage back on like episode 3. It's a little bit of an older audio quality, but be sure to check that out if you're listening on to this. Talks about some great stuff. Really interested to see. We should be getting back on once it releases and see how it goes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great.
I would love to talk with Cage again about the experience of releasing the game and everything. Probably give it maybe like a month after just to let things die down because, sometimes there's going to be a lot of report coming in. It's like, oh, got some bugs here, some bugs there and stuff like that. Something's not working. I was like, okay, well, let him rip on that for a little bit. I think other than that, like Hades 2, and then like there are a couple other games that I sort of saw, like Animal Well. I don't know what it is. We talked about it for a little bit. Another roguelike pixel experience horror. It's supposed to be like Noida-esque. If you ever heard of Noida, if you like Noida, check out Animal Well, I guess. But to kind of like move on to like the big topic that we really want to talk about, right? Not really a big topic, just a topic that we want to talk about in general. And it's something that we discussed a little bit beforehand. And John mentioned it a little bit earlier, like, siblings, they like to fight over their controllers and stuff, and you're like, you always know whatever game you're playing. But the topic that we're talking about is what John talked about before is like, and this is going to tie it into a game of our choosing, right? We talked about last week. We're going to choose a game based off of, the topic that we're going to talk about or a theme. And the theme and the topic that we're talking about today is like when you go over back when we used to have sleepovers, right? Me, myself, with John and Ian. We're old heads. We're like, we're getting out there.
We're older than Jackson. Ian and I are both are. I'm the oldest here.
I'm not.
Are you? I think you are.
By months, but
by months. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that much further away. I just hit my 30 mark, so.
Oh, nice. Hey.
Congratulations.
So I'm not too far away. But like, back in our prime days of like, going over to our friend's house, having sleepovers, what games were some of the games, and this is like, I know I'll let John talk about this because this is topic.
Yeah, I literally, we said, so if you guys don't know the process, you obviously probably don't know the process of how we do these podcasts, but we usually meet up like half an hour before we record these, and we just kind of like talk about what we're going to talk about generally, and we hang out, and we bullshit. And I was like, weren't we supposed to have like a topic about like the games that we're supposed to pick? And Jackson was like, well, John, since you brought it up, do you have a topic?
All right, I think you're putting words in my mouth right now. Putting words in my mouth.
Off the top of my head, I was like, what is a game or games that you used to play when you would go over to a sleepover? As for us in the 90s. So when you would go over to your friend's house and have a sleepover and play video games, what were the games that you were playing? And we rapped about that for a little bit, so we can re-rap here during the recording. So for me, the big game, the game I always wanted to play when I was sleeping over in the 90s was GoldenEye. And the reason why was it had blood in it, and it had guns, and I wasn't allowed to have guns or blood games in the house. That was a rule from my mom because Columbine just happened in like 97 and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Video game violence was like, the video games will make your kids kill people. Like, like that was literally like a strong voice in like Congress even of like,
oh yeah.
It was just like D&D was going to make you a Satan worshiper or whatever in the 80s. So I wasn't allowed to have violent games growing up until I was like 12 or 11. Mm-hmm. So when I was like 7 or 8 or 9, my buddy Tanner, he had GoldenEye, and so I go over to his house and we play GoldenEye like all night, and I thought it was so cool, and I thought that Natalia was cute. And then
as one should, it makes perfect sense.
I mean, we all thought about that for Lara Croft and Tomb Raider.
Exactly, pretty much the same body build. And then we had a couple of games that we'd always play. So I won't mention some that they mentioned, but like Blitz, NFL Blitz, we played a lot of that, like a lot of like football. And I didn't really understand football. Like really, mm-hmm. But I knew like throw the ball, run the ball, but like plays and stuff, and like I couldn't read the plays, like I didn't know like, but there was I don't know if you guys remember this, like for split screen stuff, there was like a way that you could like hide your cursor in that game. So if you were playing against somebody
in which one?
In Blitz.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I remember that. Right, your you would do selections just with you do play selections with the there's like the C buttons. Or something like that. So like your play options were on the screen, but they couldn't see which one you were actually choosing.
Exactly. And so like I like that in like ingenuity, I guess, of like the split screen issue, which is like your opponent can just see what you're doing. How are you gonna like develop around that? Mm-hmm. So I always thought that was cool. So yeah, like NFL Blitz, and then we'd play like sometimes we'd go over and it would be like, well, okay, let me walk this back. This is in the 90s, but also when we got older, it was like Halo. We do Halo LAN parties and stuff, or Halo parties. And then like Gears of War. I remember doing Gears of War like all night. I think Gears of War 2 had like a horde mode where it was like you and a buddy, and you had to like survive wave after wave after wave, like
Waiting for the Hammer of Dawn, dude.
Yeah, that was super cool. But that wasn't in the 90s, so I do want to stay in the 90s.
I
Or
will
maybe
try to
like
stay
early
in the 90s.
2000s.
Oh, I do want to chime in real quick that
2000s.
like
No, yeah, I was just about to finish. So anyway, that like we'd also like take turns playing Resident Evil on the GameCube. I remember doing that and being really scared, and that was like 2001. So, but those are the games that vividly pop into my mind when I think about like early sleepovers.
let me chime in real quick and I'll let you go, Ian. I'm just gonna say the majority of like the 90s is gonna be N64 games. I'm gonna tell you that
Sure.
right now.
Yep.
So just be prepared for that. But go ahead, Ian. You can go.
Well, so like, I mean, hey, so we had a big conversation earlier about hardware, right? And you know, the whole like, are we excited about the Switch 2, whatever, blah blah blah. Specific to this conversation, all right, the whole like sleepover, like what were you playing during your sleepover? We're gonna be talking about the Nintendo 64 a lot because it had 4 ports. Four ports,
did.
you know, and like, look, I love my Sega Genesis, I love my Super Nintendo, and like, you know, when you're hanging out with people, we, you know, take turns playing Mortal Kombat or playing, you know, Street Fighter, whatever, and other games that I'll get to and name specifically. But that's, you know, you're just stuck with 2 people unless you had a multi-tap, which like who actually had a multi-tap, right?
I had a multi-tap.
Oh, okay, well, good for you.
I have it somewhere around there.
But no, but yeah, the 64 with the, you know, four controllers, like, you know, the whole 4-way split screen. I mean, that was big. That was huge. So yeah, like, well, so what were mine? What were my big? I mean, Smash for like Smash 64.
That's a common one, of course. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was, and I mean, so, but one of my best friend growing up, like, you know, we have sleepovers at each other's houses all the time, and like, we're always, you know, just happy, excited to hang out. We, you know, like do all kinds of different, like we both kind of like magically gathering at the same time. We're super nerds, the biggest nerds, and so like we'd have, you know, always be doing different stuff. But I was always really happy when the sleepover was at his house because I didn't have an N64 and he did, and I loved Smash so much. I like that was the first thing. Once we
Smash
got
was
down in the
cool.
basement, it's like, all right, let's play a round or 2, and then we'll do other stuff. No, another huge one for me, Star Fox
Yes.
64, massive, loved doing that. And then another one, both on the 64 and then later on the Xbox, different game but same series, Gauntlet. Gauntlet was a great one.
That's
Man,
a
we would
great
have
one.
long nights just trying to keep a Gauntlet run alive and stuff. Oh yeah,
That's
Dude,
the cool
I
thing
played that
too.
with my brother. I never played that during sleepovers, but I loved Gauntlet.
nice.
I think the cool thing with that one is like if you have like your memory card, you can put it in your controller and bring your character with you.
I
Oh
have it.
yeah.
I have that. Yep, absolutely. That was the only way you could save.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So yeah.
You had to have a memory card.
But as far as like, so like the going back, staying in the 90s, but back before the N64, the one that stands out to me the most, and this is maybe a weird pick, but I would rent this when like friends would come over for the Sega Genesis, was Mega Bomberman.
Oh,
Mega Bomberman
I
was
do
a
love me some
great-
Bomberman, dude.
That was a great, like, you know, like, you know, competitive, you know, like just trading off 2 people at a time, you know. Yeah, that was great. I loved Mega Bomberman. That was a fantastic game.
You just unlocked a memory for me. It wasn't Mega Bomberman. It was Bomberman 64.
Oh yeah,
And I
yeah.
played the crap out of that. I didn't own it, but it was at a buddy's house, and we would go. It was 4-player on the N64, and that was super fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love those. I feel like a lot of my someone has to say Mario Party. I do love Mario Party, but I feel like maybe just the people, the kind of person I am, the people I was hanging out with, I feel like the sleepover games were more, I want to say more active than that. You know
I
what I mean?
agree,
It was the Gauntlet, Kart, Smash, yeah, like that kind of thing. Less of the turn, like, you know, I mean, you know how to play, you know how Mario Party is. It's fun, it's great, but yeah, we definitely didn't go in that direction as much.
It really depends
you
on
also
like
got-
the group.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, like the age at which we are. I don't know about you guys, but at least for me, when I was that age, I always wanted to be like I didn't want to play the kid game, you know, especially when I was over friends' house. I wanted to play like a cool game, like whatever.
100%.
So
No, I'm right there with you. And also, and I should just to clarify, there's a lot of GoldenEye going on too. I didn't say GoldenEye because you already did, but
yeah,
I
didn't
just
want
want
to
to be
take away your
clear.
thunder of Smash and Star Fox.
And Star
'cause
Fox,
those were
yeah.
huge.
I think
Those are
luckily
big.
for me, my choices is that when usually for me personally, when I went over to my friend's house and we slept over at his place, I would play when everyone else was asleep, I would play Ocarina of Time by myself. Right?
Oh, interesting.
But
Ooh,
it's because I didn't
okay.
own an N64 growing up. But outside of that, when we were playing team games, we would play like Rampage, World. It's like I don't remember what it's called, but it's like Rampage World something, right? When you play as the big gaijus or
World
the
Tour,
monster. Yeah, and that was fun, just beating things up and destroying buildings. I say another one. We play a lot of wrestling games too. You know, like WCW. That's like a classic one to play. We were like really, early '90s. You're around my age, a little bit younger than John and Ian. You're into wrestling, dude. You're into wrestling, regardless.
It's interesting because I was
fair.
not. I think Ian and I had similar backgrounds. The echelon of society that we grew up in did not associate with wrestling.
That's fair.
I was never huge into wrestling. A couple of my friends were. My friend with my best friend growing up. He at some point got one of the Nintendo 64 wrestling games. I don't remember which one it was, but like yeah, we played a little bit. But yeah, I guess that we just weren't huge into that kind of thing. You know, it was if you were alive at that time, just going to school, interacting with people in general, it was impossible to not get a little bit into like, you at least had to have like a favorite wrestler. You had to know a little bit, but yeah, we didn't, I never got huge into the wrestling scene.
We didn't at all.
Wow.
No, like it was not popular. Like no, it was not popular in my elementary school or middle school. Like no one,
Wow.
You were weird if you liked it. You know what I mean? Like
No, it was definitely, there was some popularity where I grew up for sure. So, yeah. Like I had a passive knowledge. All right, my favorite wrestler was Sting. All right, you had to pick someone. Also, Sting was kind of cool.
Okay.
Got like corpse paint or something.
I'd pick the Undertaker. Is that weird?
No, Undertaker's fine. A solid pick.
Who's the guy with the mustache?
Hulk Hogan?
The Hulkster. Yeah.
I mean, he's a big, right? Hulk Hogan was a giant name. He was in, a lot of pop culture and stuff. So that makes perfect sense. I'm trying to think of. I mean, there's so many. So you said we were trying to stay 90s, not 2000s, but like, like at a certain point, Halo was a huge
before
one.
High school, right? Like before
So
high school.
yeah, and Halo was before high school, right? What year was that? What year
Halo
was
was
Halo
01.
1?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I remember
That was
playing
still
Halo.
well before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Halo was a big one. We play a lot of that, and that was also one of the ones that we would, we would do like not just the 4-player against each other, whatever, but you just come over and be like, hey, let's try to get a run, like get a co-op run all the way to the end,
Yep.
right?
Legendary
Like,
campaign.
get a
add some
legendary all the way to the
skulls
end
if you wanted, dude. Combat
Mm-hmm.
Evolved was so cool.
And I would also say this was still, I think this was still middle school. The earliest like Call of Duties.
Okay, I have them behind me. Those like the World War II ones, Call of Duty 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Yes, those were super cool.
I distinctly remember a friend of mine in middle school. This is like the next. This is like sleepover, like the like, oh well, let's get over like hang out and play video games, but like the next step after that of gaming at that time, we went to like somewhere. We were driving somewhere a couple states away to stay with like his extended family. Like he invited, like, hey, you want to come down, stay with my grandparents up in like Connecticut or wherever, bit of a drive, whatever.
I told you this is the upper echelon.
Hey, that was his family, not mine. All right, so, but to hold us over, to keep us busy and entertained on the drive, on this long drive, he brought and hooked up a little CRT television and wedged it in between. It was like that size, but
we did that with this
wedged
one
it in between the front seats, and then plugged. I don't know how they got power and everything, but plugged it in so that it had power. And then we also brought I guess it was his Xbox, and played like the first or second Call of Duty.
Dude.
Split screen on that little thing, sitting in the back seat of the car, all the way up to Connecticut. Because the world be damned if you're going to stop us from gaming for a second.
I can 100% relate that because we took this literal TV. We had a Dodge Durango. Trevor and I, my brother, we sat in the very back of the Dodge Durango. In the middle seats, there was 3 rows of seats, was my brother and my sister. And then my stepdad and my mom in the front. And we had that TV, and we'd either watch movies or we had our, I think it was our N64 or something connected to it. And we would all play on our road trip up to it was like a 9-hour road trip up to Canada to ride horses.
Oh wow.
And like so we'd just be gaming the whole
wait,
time.
Echelon.
Okay, hold on,
Sorry,
hold on.
Echelon
Echelon?
tag. Echelon goes in right there.
So,
I'm
so
sorry.
here's the, okay, if you want the backstory behind it, it's it was like a dude ranch. But the reason why we'd go up there was Canada didn't have like the same like safety rules that the United States has. So like you don't have to wear a helmet, you don't have to like ride in a line. Like you could really like ride horses as opposed to like there's
Extreme
no
horsing.
liability, you know, whereas like in the United States you had to wear a helmet, you had to like stay nose to tail and like all that bullshit. So
So you're saying that there's no horsing around if you're
No
riding
horsing
horses in
around
America? Wow,
in
my
America.
goodness.
If you're
I'm
pizzaing
sorry,
when
I
you're
thought this was America.
penciling, you're gonna have a bad time.
but anyway, dude, you're not alone with the CRT wedged between the seats. I thought I was one of the only ones who did that.
I don't think we ever did that. I'll be
Long
honest.
car ride like that, we got a game.
Yeah,
We got a game.
It was big. That and then your Game Boy for Pokemon or whatever.
Sure. But yeah, that was definitely that trip was like we will not settle for our Game Boys. We need more.
That's fair.
It's a fair one. I think like another game that like kind of adds on to that before like the the Halo 2 era a little bit, and I was playing like Quake 64 with people. Like that's another like instant classic right there. Outside of that one, I'm trying to remember exactly what other games I did play when I went over to maybe like this like starting to get to like the mid 2000s a little bit, but Rock Band and Guitar
that was
Hero
high school
were,
for me.
Yeah, that was high
all
school for me as well. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, we did play that, but I wouldn't say like I wasn't really like doing sleepovers then anymore. You know, like it was more like we go over to your buddy's house. Well, at least for me, it was. I'm going over to so and so's house, and then we 3-way call to make it look like I was at that person's house, and then they would say they're staying at my house, and we would 3-way call from my house, and then we would go to a party. So that was
The
classic.
classic.
That's
Classic.
fair. I mean, I wouldn't call it like necessarily a sleepover. It's more like it's like, yeah, I kind of stayed out late tonight. I'm probably gonna stay over here at
Yeah,
so-and-so's
crashing in a
house.
buddy's house
Yeah.
is different than like the sleepover, you know, where there's
But
like
it's
three or
equivalent
four.
equivalent enough, right? Because if you crash over, you're probably gonna stay up a little bit, especially on
yeah.
the weekend,
That's fair.
playing some games like that.
So I guess like wrapping this together, unless Jackson, you have more games to select or
I
talk
don't.
about.
I can always select more games, but I think we hit like all of us hit like the prime targets
Yeah.
of like
So
what we usually played.
let's start dishing them out, boys. Who's picking what for who?
Oh boy. See, this
Well,
is
we all play each other's like games anyways, so
Do we
Yeah,
all just
we
pick
got-
one to replay, or should we be like Jackson gives a game to Ian, Ian gives a game to John, John gives a game to Jackson, or do we give a game to the other two?
give the game to the other two like we did before.
Okay.
So yeah, we all recommend a game. I mean, here's like this is an interesting one because the games we're talking about were like
Multiplayer.
yeah, we're like whether or not they had a single player component or whatever, like that they made this list because they were great to play with other people. So this is like
we're
an
not gonna be
interesting.
playing-
And we're not gonna be playing with other people.
Well, you can if you can find
Well,
someone. Like
True.
They're
True.
still like
we can
necessarily.
play together. Holy, we can all play together.
I would say like
depending on the game and the tech.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's tech. I'll explain that to you later. But there are games that you specifically could just recommend, like for John, right? GoldenEye. I think we all played GoldenEye before, but
I'm not
that
going to
was-
recommend it. I played it recently. It's terrible. I'm not going to recommend it. I'm not going to recommend it. It was it was the game I wanted to play when I
But
left home.
that's
but
the idea, though, right? Like that was a single player game. You probably played it when your buddy was like they fell asleep after playing like hours and hours of like.
yeah, we do
stuff.
we do like the multiplayer thing, but we'd also take turns missions and stuff for
Mm-hmm.
sure. But I'm not gonna force you guys to play that. You're just gonna say it's outdated and terrible, and like I already know what you're gonna say. You know what I mean? Like
That's true. I think for me, I love a good like beat 'em up or just like random things. Like you could probably still play this by yourself, and that's the Rampage World Tour one.
I
big-
have that cartridge.
Literally just beat up buildings and throw
And
things
when there was
down.
the pretty girl, you could grab her and then eat her. Yeah.
Okay. Rampage
So
isn't a
are
bad
you
one.
recommending Rampage? Is that your final
Hell
recommendation?
yeah, dude. I mean, I've put 30 minutes the least, 1 hour at the max of playtime.
Don't overplay it. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's an arcade style kind of game, you know.
Well, my brothers and I
Yeah.
actually beat that. I remember you like go to the moon, at one point at the end and stuff.
Why wouldn't you go to the moon?
Right,
You
yeah.
know?
When I'm a big gaiju, I should probably just go to the moon, you know?
Which character were you?
I was always a dinosaur, man. I kept it simple.
You're the dinosaur?
Dinosaur all the way, man.
I was relegated to like the dude with the horn, I think. I think he had a horn.
The dude with the horn.
I vaguely remember what he looked like.
Let me see here. You know, I think occasionally I would go for... there's another one.
Oh, the werewolf dude. That's who I was.
Werewolf's not bad either. Let me see here. The list of it. I think... Oh, I played the rhinoceros as well. Well, he's in Universal too. What am I saying? World Tour. Okay, I didn't realize. I did play the second one though, but World Tour had this weird-looking gremlin-looking thing. A rat, or no, that's a werewolf. That's Ralph. His name is Ralph. I might have been mixing this up a little bit, but I remember playing this. The gorilla is always, you know, a classic to play.
Sure. Absolute classic.
I don't know, but I would recommend Rampage. I think it's a fun game you just play, just to beat up buildings and stuff like that.
I mean, that's definitely a good choice. That's a good option. I'm still like I'm processing here. I'm trying to figure out what do I actually want to put out there when I tell all you to play.
I mean,
Man.
if anything, it's I limit the time. Like, don't overplay it. So it depends on like what game you can probably put. No, watch John recommend like Star Wars Pod Racing or something.
I'm
But
trying
that's
to
a
think
game.
too.
That's a game that he owned. So
All right, here's my soft recommendation. Halo Combat Evolved.
Wow.
okay, I mean
Oh, and-
that's. I can go back and retry that. I haven't played it in a while since like high school, but
Going classic.
It's
I like it.
it's first person though, Karna. So or Jackson. So watch out for your
I
motion
can play.
sickness.
I mean, I'm playing for like an hour, so it should be fine.
Yeah, don't overplay it or anything. Beat the first. I would say the first two missions. Like get out of the space station and do the first level in the.
You already
Halo.
know. I'm going for dual needlers, man.
There you go. I always, or it's the battle rifle and the
The
plasma.
BR. Yeah.
But I always hated when the flood came in because it was spooky. It was like the
Sure.
whole tone of the game changed. It went from like, oh, I'm just killing aliens and gonna save the world to like, now it's like I'm gonna get destroyed by this spooky like insect thing. I don't like it.
What do you
Man.
got, Ian? What's on the plate? What are you serving us?
Ooh, I'm struggling. I'm trying here. Trying to think of something that, you know, I mean, I laid out all the things I played. I don't want my recommendation to be too boring. You know, like if I say Star Fox, because again, I did love playing, you know, the multiplayer mode in Star Fox a lot when I was young. But hey, come on, like we've all played Star Fox so many times, right? You know, maybe that's just not gonna bring excitement to any of your lives. John, it looked like you had something to say. I don't know what it
Well,
was.
I was gonna say maybe I'll walk back Halo and I'll say Smash Bros.
I mean, you can
I
put
would
forward
say-
whatever you want.
My favorite thing when I did play Smash Bros. At my friend's house when we're sleeping over, like yeah, we doopy
The
down
time
and
trial
stuff.
stuff.
Time trials and the target practice.
Dude, so I love the home run derby thing where you had to like hit the thing.
That's a good one
like,
too.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good one too.
But okay, I'm officially changing my answer from Combat Evolved to just do one single player run through of Melee with any character.
The
Not
melee,
Melee,
or
sorry. No, sorry, the N64.
64.
Oh,
I mean, either one
nice.
work. We both play those anyways. It doesn't matter.
Well, for the 90s, for me, it was the N64.
64. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Can I substitute that for doing the targets? Because I love the targets.
Yeah, sure, play the targets. Yeah, why not? Whatever you want to do. Just play for a bit.
Yeah.
But hell, play like a stock match against like some computers level 9. Like whatever you want to do. I don't care.
That doesn't sound like a bad time.
Huh?
You know what you could recommend, Ian? Gauntlet.
Yeah, I was thinking about recommending it. The only reason I was hesitant is because I was pretty sure John had like played a
did.
Gauntlet recently.
Gauntlet Legends and also Gauntlet 2.
Okay.
So
That's true. You did.
You're pretty gauntleted up. You're gauntlet.
Don't worry about me. You make your own pick.
Oh,
Please don't say
man.
Glover.
I'm definitely not going to say Glover. I am 100% not going to say Glover.
If anything, that's like one of the worst games to play. Well, outside of like Superman 64.
Glover was rough, man.
It was rough.
I always thought he was a hamburger helper guy.
Yeah.
Man, I'm trying. I'm thinking as hard as I can.
You're in no rush. I will stall verbally here.
Yeah, we can talk for a little bit.
Yeah. So you know what? I might actually play my recommendation with you guys because I haven't played Melee or not Melee. I keep saying
64.
Melee. I haven't played Smash. Regardless, the last time I played Smash, this was well after. This was Melee, so it was like 2009. We had my apartment, my buddy and I, people would come over, we'd smoke a whole bunch of weed and drink all the time and stuff. We're 19, like that's what you do.
It is, it's what you do.
It was 4 of us. We would always play Smash Bros. 4 stock for the order in which we got to smoke the bowl. So first place got first hit. So, and then the last guy got like the ashes at the end, but you'd always try to burn a corner. Like you weren't going to just roast the top, but you know what I mean? So that and Uno. So Uno matches and Super Smash Bros. Matches were very competitive. We were very into them. But it was a lot of fun. So, I haven't played Smash Bros. Since 2009, I
think one of like the main things too, when like you always think back in the day, like you would plug that console in or whatever console that required CRT stuff back in the day on like the biggest plasma TV that has like the huge back end. It was like, how'd you even get this in here? Because this stuff is like not that, what do you call it? Light. They're so heavy.
No,
moving
dude. Yeah.
CRTs, especially those big ones.
It was exponentially heavy too.
I've got an outside pick, something that I didn't even talk about, but there was a period of time in the 90s where with a couple specific friends I played this game a lot. And I'm gonna recommend it, but then we're gonna talk about it because this is you got to make sure that you guys have access to it and you can play it and whatnot. Twisted Metal 2.
I love Twisted Metal. I played that at my buddy Elliot's house. He had we do like when I go over to sleep over at his house, he had the PlayStation, so we do Crash Bandicoot stuff and Twisted Metal and like stuff like that. So let's hear it.
Twisted Metal 2. So again, that was what, midnight 1996, PlayStation 1. So I just that's 100% my recommendation. I would play that so much for like, again with like the friends that had the PlayStation. And even like that was a game that I continued to play with certain friends that would come over and hang out when I had my own apartment, like my first apartment after when I was in college. Like that's what we would play. They would come over and we would do what you do when you're in college, we don't need to specify what that is. And that was one of like, we had things on rotation and it was mostly like Melee and those were constant. They were always in rotation. Yeah, Twisted Metal. I was a big Mr. Grimm guy. Loved playing as Mr. Grimm.
I have to walk back what I just said. I played Twisted Metal Black.
Oh yeah, so that's later.
2. Yes.
That's later. Twisted Metal 2. Again, not 1, Twisted Metal 2 for the PlayStation 1, 1996. That is my pick. That I've played that much more than I played any other Twisted Metal game. Okay. I have played Black, but not a whole lot. 2 was the high point for me.
I don't remember. I chose cars and I would just go around and explode things, other people's cars. That was like the highlight.
That is 100% what you're supposed to do.
That's that's not a bad pick. I wouldn't mind trying that out again on my own time. I think I have a copy of it somewhere. But Yeah, that'd be a fun one. I kind of almost want to like take back my Rampage one. 'Cause I forgot about the PS1 stuff. Like I remember I would go with my friend's house. We play Crash Team Racing. Now the original Crash Team Racing. That's a fun one right there. But I think well, I'll keep the pick of the Gaijus and all that.
Yeah, Rampage is as far as I'm concerned, Rampage is a great pick. 'Cause I haven't played Rampage in so long. That was definitely people had it. We would rent it. My one friend that I'd hang out with the most often back in the N64 days. Like I don't think he owned it, but we would rent it every once in a while. And I mean, yeah, that's a great pick.
Mm-hmm. So I think to wrap things up, let's run through this again. So yeah, my pick for Rampage World Tour on N64, John with Super Smash Bros. 64, do either a whole playthrough, or you can do time trials and target practice, which is my favorite thing to do, honestly. And then you got Ian with Twisted Metal 2 for the PS1. I think that's a solid list we got going right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good breakdown.
Yeah,
it feels like childhood. My goodness.
And then I feel like we should definitely, if you guys are all the listeners and viewers out there, if you're listening to this or watching this, hey, maybe you want to check this out too and play along with us and tell us how you feel about this game. So when we come back, I don't know.
That's a good call to action.
Yeah, good call to action. Like next week or a week after that. It depends on what game you hit first. I'm not sure which game we're gonna all hit up first, but
I'm gonna play Smash.
I think I'll probably do Smash first. It's probably the easiest one to do, in my opinion. And then I think week after that we can do Rampage, keep it in the same console, and then the last one would be Twisted Metal.
I have to get my house in order for PlayStation 1 games, but I will. That'll give me a little bit of time to get that set up.
Mm-hmm. And then I think with that wraps up the topic for the most part. I always forgot about all the. In this day and age, you kind of forget about the nostalgic times of going over to a friend's house and playing games and having that. I want to ask this. We got a little bit of time. I want to ask this: if we could have a sleepover nowadays, what game would you want to play?
That's a really good question. Would it be with you too? Who's over? Who's coming over?
Let's just say
Is
it's
my
us.
girlfriend here too?
No, let's just say it's us. The group of us. We're all having a sleepover. We're playing. Well, we're all crashing each other's and we're hanging out and we're gonna play space.
We're having a sleep. We're having a play date. That's fine.
Yeah,
we're
gonna spend the night.
We can have play dates.
I'm gonna wreck you all in Monopoly and get all the railroads.
Dude, Lindsay won't even play with me anymore because I'm so good at Monopoly. So
you're too good. You're
I'm
Monopoly cracked.
Yeah.
I was pretty good at Monopoly.
Yeah.
I think
feel like you would be. I feel again we're cut from the same cloth. I feel like you would be.
And even so, at this point, I feel like it's been a while since I played Monopoly. But the last time I played, I'm pretty sure I was following. Are you familiar with the? I think it's called the Elfer strategy.
Is that where you put all the houses on and won't let the
hotels? You never buy a hotel. Because buying a hotel, then this is like again like the Elfer strategy only works if you're playing by like strict rules of Monopoly, which really just means if you use all the houses in the pool of houses, you're not allowed to use like substitutes. You can't rip up little pieces of paper and be like, oh here, these are houses too. Yeah, the cornerstone of the Elfer.
Which doesn't make any sense in a real economy. But continue.
That's true. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. Housing supply is a thing, and yes, housing supply does expand. But we listen. We can talk about real estate economics if you want. Anyway, here's the thing. If we're dudes, we're getting together for a little play date, a little sleepover. I don't know that Monopoly is my go-to. First of all, we're talking
risk
because we're
first
talking.
Off, but anyway,
those are board
games. I'm with you on that. That's not a bad pick. No, Settlers Catan. Anyway. But back to
I don't like. Okay, am I the only one who doesn't like Settlers?
You must be. I'm really sorry for you.
Yes.
But back to video games. We're sitting down right now. We have all the games that exist now at our disposal. What are we playing? Man, that is a great question.
And three of us.
There's three of us.
It's such a weird number. Like it's like
three
for
of us,
gaming.
right?
That's a weird number. I mean, like, should we pretend we have a fourth person just to round things out, or are we just sticking with the three?
No, it's a three-man team.
And so this is like couch co-op, right? Like we couldn't be like, oh, let's play HellDivers, and you go in this room with a PC, and I go in this room with a PC. Like we're all sitting on the couch together, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So Okay, here I have one pitch, and it's not the best pitch because it doesn't. 3 people can't play at once, but this is gonna get into the cycle when someone dies kind
Like
of situation.
King of the Hill or whatever.
Yeah, which can make this interesting. But it is a co-op game, and one of my favorite co-op games that I do not like as a game itself. Great couch game, bad game for its title. Resident Evil 5.
Oh, I've only played that co-op.
Two-person co-op. If you go down, so there's like if I remember correctly, God, it's been a while since I played. I think like you can go down, like one person can go down, but as long as the other person doesn't, you can like revive or something like that.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've played it, but I feel like you go down, swap the controller to the next person. So you just keep rotating. I feel like that'd be a great. I've never done that, and I just thought of it right now, and I think that'd be a great little couch game mode for Resident Evil 5.
That sounds fun. I have a couple ideas. Can I say all my ideas, or do I just have to pick
Go
one?
ahead, man. I'm still thinking. So
okay, so like some sort of roguelike where it's like a competition between us, where we like do one run, and then like if you complete the run, let's say it takes me like 42 minutes to beat it or something, you have to beat my time now, and we like take turns that way, and it's like competitive against each other. My other thought was, oh my god, I just had it. And it was. I was like, oh, this is the best idea ever. What was it? Come back to me, because I had another game. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
right.
it'd be so fun.
I think, oh my god, you know what it is? I like those. I wouldn't say tower defense games, but those Muso games, right? Where you got one person like Dynasty Warriors, and you're going through and shredding armies of people and taking control points, and doing that co-op wise would be fun.
Dynasty Wars. That was after the time period we were talking about earlier, but yeah, Dynasty Wars is fantastic. Go ahead. Sorry, Jackson. Sorry.
No,
What'd you have?
I think John got his.
I just remembered. Yeah, this is huge. Get ready, everyone. Put that. If you're standing, if you're watching or listening to this, and you're standing, you better sit down because this is gonna blow your mind. Divinity: Original Sin.
Oh,
That's
nice.
a good one.
So it would be slow.
True.
But like each person, like you don't need to all be doing something at the same time. It's like
Yeah, you can go off on your own. You just have to come back, like at certain intervals. That is a good one, and that's one that I have done with other people. The thing is, my only pushback's not the right word, but you don't need like that's a great non-couch co-op game because it so well facilitates just 4 people sitting at their computer, up to 4 people sitting at their computer in wherever, and just like hop on a Discord call and then you all just play and connect. Now you can obviously do that all with each other, sit in the same room,
right?
And all have your like computers. You bring a laptop and yeah, that works great. There's no way you can play on one instance with multiple people. Like you can't like plug it in and plug in multiple controllers to a computer and then like split screen it. Can you? Does that work?
Well, I think I don't know. I think so. Like I played on Xbox with a buddy. Obviously, it was digital, but I think like if it was, I think it supported. Like if I had 2 controllers, like we could play on the same Xbox.
Cool. Okay, I didn't know you could do that.
I think
that is good. I mean, Divinity is a great game to play with other people.
Well, even nowadays, it's easy to still, but you still play that game online, theoretically, right? I think another one for me, and this is like for like the older Tales of games, like you can't like the main person controls the person on the overworld and stuff for an RPG, but in the action combat part, every controller that's plugged in, you can control a character for the combat. Wait,
I'm sorry. Well, hold on. What?
Tales of you remember that game Tales of the Abyss I played?
Oh, you're talking about. I thought you were just like I thought you were talking randomly about RPGs. This is a specific RPG where if you have multiple controllers plugged in, each one controls a specific character during the battle phase. I didn't know that.
So you can do that, but obviously like the main story is like whoever's player
so
one,
one
right?
person.
Right,
Yeah.
But I mean, we're all there for the experience, right?
That's
and
cool.
Then we can battle with battle against other mobs and control things. Like let's say like there's a very specific character that only does healing arts or whatever, or healing skills. We'll let Ian be the healer. He's like, hey buddy, you better heal me or I'm gonna die. We're all gonna die. And it's like I need John to pull some of the aggro off of me from some of these mobs so I can start casting my bigger skills too. but he doesn't do that. He's just running around in circles.
All right, I do have one more that would work with 3 people.
Okay.
And is also this is among one of my favorites multiplayer games. It's compact. It is a shooter though, so it's first person, whatnot. Left 4 Dead, specifically Left 4 Dead 2.
Ooh,
Dude, I would totally play that with you guys.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's
that's
fantastic.
a classic.
I have
What
it
are those
on
things
Steam.
called that explode?
The boomers.
Yeah, the boomers.
Goddamn.
And the
Goddamn
tank
boomers.
thing with like the big arm and stuff, and the tongue dude who would like
Yeah.
suck you with the tongue, or like
Yep,
the
yeah,
little
you-
jumpy guy who would jump on you.
The jockeys.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then you would like, get
Yeah.
off me.
Yeah.
And I think I'm doing my one final pick, like modernly, any side-scrolling beat 'em up. You can always have at least 3 people nowadays for a lot of them. So like Streets of Rage 4, the old Scott Pilgrim game, which I think is fantastic. I think the port that they did for PC is awful, but that's a really fun beat 'em up. Really
Castle
great.
Crashers.
Castle Crashers. Oh god, good times. Did it on the red one. Good music too. But I think
Oh,
that's,
and I'm gonna throw out there. It's already been mentioned in the previous topic, but Gauntlet Legends is a
That's a classic,
fantastic couch co-op game.
Which one?
Gauntlet Legends for the N64.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think with that's a fun one. That was a fun one to talk about for sure. I think outside of like everything, that's probably gonna be our question to you, the viewers and the listeners. What is one of your favorite games that you would like to play, or that you liked playing when you ever went to your friend's house for sleeping over? And I think I'll throw an extra question too. Is like, what game would you play now at a sleepover with some of your friends nowadays? If you want to, hang out with them, like get away from your families, wives, husbands.
I will say we have a Wii set up in our bedroom, and Lindsay and I sometimes play Donkey Kong Country. The
Tropical
one
Freeze?
for the Wii.
Tropical Freeze? No.
The one for the Wii. So it's
Returns?
it's like the prequel to the Tropical whatever.
I think it's Returns. That's like the first
Yeah.
one that came out.
Yeah.
And it's
Or-
basically kind of like that one, but like not. And we like hand the controller back and forth. That's what we do.
Nice.
That's our sleepovers.
Okay,
Classic.
yeah, it's not bad. Yeah. So what game did you like playing going over sleepovers, and what game would you play now at sleepovers? That's our question to you guys. Is there anything else you guys want to mention before we wrap it up?
I think we hit all the high points.
And the low points. We hit all the points.
I will say, just for the future in the next couple of weeks, Ian may or may or not be here. He's actually going to be going on
He
vacation.
better not be here. I'm gonna stand up. If he's traveling the world or like Europe or Germany or wherever, like do that. That's way more important than this.
John's not wrong, and that might be how things shake out. We will see, though. We will see.
All right. Well, at least send me some video clips. Like,
I want to see you
Hey!
later, Hosen.
yeah, just send us some video clips so I can like insert them into like the videos. Like, oh yeah, a little message from Ian here.
You know what you should do? You should go back and like splice in his like him talking in this episode. So we're like, what do you think, Ian? And then Ian's like, something random from this conversation that like makes no sense in the context. And then you're like, that's right, Ian. Thank you.
Yeah.
I give support for this idea.
We'll see what we do. But without further ado, this has been Dialogue Mash. I've been your main host, Jackson. With me as usual, my co-host John and Ian, and we are signing out.